Every man thinks he's awake until the universe rips his illusions apart. Spiritual awakening isn't some peaceful meditation or poetic enlightenment. It's violent, it's confusing. It's the slow destruction of every false identity you've ever built. You begin to question everything, your beliefs, your relationships, your purpose. You stop recognizing the person in the mirror. The friends who once understood you start calling you distant. The routines that used to make you feel alive now feel like cages. And that's when you realize awakening isn't about becoming new. It's about burning everything false until only truth remains. There are 5 brutal stages every awakened soul must walk through. Some get lost halfway. Others go insane trying to return to sleep. But if you endure them, if you face yourself with honesty instead of fear, you emerge untouchable. In this video, we'll break down the 5 stages of spiritual awakening, what each one feels like, what destroys most people in the process, and how to know which stage you're in right now. Because once you see the truth, you can never go back. Subscribe if you're ready to wake up, no matter the cost. 1. The collapse of illusion. This is where it all begins, and where most people run. The collapse of illusion feels like death, because in many ways it is. The life you've known starts to crumble, not through catastrophe, but through clarity. Suddenly, everything you've believed in, your religion, your ambitions, your relationships, your routines, begins to feel off. Hollow, meaningless. You start asking questions that make people uncomfortable. You look around and realize how much of what you called life was programming, habits built from fear, beliefs borrowed from others, goals shaped by comparison. And when you start seeing through that, it's disorienting. You don't feel awakened. You feel insane. You start to see how people chase comfort instead of truth. You see how validation replaced authenticity, how religion became control, how school taught obedience, not wisdom. The illusion isn't just outside you. It's inside you. Every label, every expectation, every dream built to please others becomes heavy, unbearable. This stage hurts because your ego is losing power, and the ego will fight like hell to survive. It'll whisper, "You're just tired. You're overthinking. Just go back." But something deeper inside you knows. You can't unsee what you've seen. This collapse often comes through chaos, a breakup, failure, loss, or existential emptiness. Life uses pain as a crowbar to crack open the illusion. The moment everything stops making sense is the moment truth begins to whisper. You'll start to feel disconnected from the people around you, not out of superiority, but because you can see through the masks they still wear. Conversations feel empty. Small talk feels fake. The world feels staged, and in a way, it is. It's like waking up in a movie you used to think was real. You can see the script, the acting, the repetition, and yet everyone around you keeps saying, "Relax, this is how life works." But something in you rebels. You begin to crave silence. You withdraw. You need space to process the storm happening inside you. That's when you realize awakening doesn't start with peace. It starts with destruction. You lose interest in things that once defined you. The parties, the gossip, the chase for approval. It all starts to feel like noise. You'll try to fake it, to play along, but your soul refuses to participate. And that's terrifying, because now you don't know who you are without the illusion. This is the ego's death rattle. The moment it realizes it's losing control, it will try to rebuild the illusion in new forms, new distractions, new relationships, new identities. But each one collapses faster than the last. The truth is, this stage isn't punishment. It's purification. The destruction isn't random. It's surgery. The false self must die so the real one can breathe. And it's okay to grieve that. You're not weak for feeling lost. You're shedding identities that were never yours to begin with. You may feel anger toward the world, the system, religion, family for lying to you. But eventually that anger turns into understanding. They weren't lying out of malice. They were asleep too. The blind can't teach you how to see. Once you hit this point, you start noticing strange coincidences, synchronicities, moments of eerie alignment. They aren't random. They're signs that you're entering a higher level of awareness. You're not falling apart. You're falling open. This stage teaches you that clarity always feels like chaos at first. Because when your eyes adjust to light after a lifetime in darkness, it burns. But remember this, the pain you feel isn't destruction. It's rebirth disguised as confusion. The illusion must collapse so truth can rebuild. You'll start to crave depth, truth, stillness, real connection, things that make your soul expand instead of shrink. And while the world tells you you're changing, the truth is you're finally becoming who you were before the world told you who to be. That's the beginning of awakening and the end of imitation. This is stage one, the collapse of illusion, where everything you thought you were dies, so everything real can finally live. 2. The isolation phase. This is the stage where awakening becomes lonely. You don't isolate because you hate people. You isolate because your soul can no longer survive on surface-level energy. The noise of the world starts to suffocate you. The small talk, the gossip, the endless distractions, they all feel foreign now. Your vibration changes, and everything that isn't aligned with it starts to fall away. You don't choose this separation, it happens naturally. The group chats go quiet. The invitations slow down. People start saying, "You've changed," and they're right. You have. At first, you'll try to hold on. You'll reach out to old friends, revisit old habits, try to fit back into the life you once loved. But something in you resists. The conversations drain you. The parties feel empty. The environments that once felt familiar now feel energetically heavy, like walking through fog. You start realizing that loneliness isn't the same as being alone. Loneliness is craving connection. Solitude is becoming it. This stage hurts because it strips away your dependence on external validation. You can't escape into people anymore. You're being forced inward, and that's where most people run. Because when you sit with yourself long enough, everything you've buried begins to surface. The silence becomes a mirror. You start to see your wounds, your fears, your toxic patterns. There's nowhere to hide. The mask is gone and the truth is loud. You'll go through waves of peace and panic. Some days solitude feels divine, other days it feels like exile. You'll question if you're losing your mind. But what's really happening is that you're detoxing from dependency. You're learning to live without emotional noise. It's in this isolation that you begin to hear your own voice clearly, the one buried under years of opinions and expectations. You'll start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And that's why this stage is sacred. It's the spiritual cocoon. The world thinks you've disappeared, but you're rebuilding. You're recalibrating your energy, cleansing your circle, and learning to draw power from stillness. The people who leave during this phase aren't losses. They're proof that your frequency is rising. You're not meant to carry everyone with you. Some relationships were built on your old vibration. When that version of you dies, those bonds dissolve too. And that's okay. You'll start to appreciate silence differently. The quiet moments that once scared you now feel healing. Music hits deeper. Nature feels alive. Prayer or meditation no longer feel forced. They become necessity. You stop needing noise to feel alive because peace becomes your new stimulation. But don't mistake isolation for permanent solitude. This phase isn't meant to last forever. It's preparation. You're being refined in darkness so you can shine without distraction. The silence is teaching you discernment, how to sense energy, protect your boundaries, and move with intention. When you finally emerge, you'll notice something profound. Your energy speaks louder than words. You no longer chase connection. You attract alignment. The right people start finding you effortlessly, because your aura now acts as a filter. You'll look back at this period and realize it wasn't loneliness. It was divine preservation. You were being hidden while you healed. The isolation phase is where the warrior sharpens his blade. The mystic deepens his faith. The chosen learns to sit with pain until it transforms into wisdom. Most people avoid this stage because it feels empty. But that emptiness is fertile. It's the soil where your new self grows. The silence that once broke you will one day become your greatest source of strength. This is stage 2, the isolation phase, where solitude becomes your sanctuary and silence your initiation. 3. The inner war. This is the stage where awakening turns violent. Not outside, but within. You thought isolation was hard? The inner war makes it look peaceful. Because now the battle isn't between you and the world. It's between your old self and your emerging one. Your ego, that voice that's always needed control, approval, and identity, starts to panic. It's dying and it knows it. And just like any dying force, it becomes desperate. It'll whisper lies to pull you back into the illusion. You're losing yourself. You've gone too far. You're different now. No one will understand you. This is the ego's last stand, a psychological rebellion against your awakening. You'll swing between clarity and confusion. One day you'll feel infinite, powerful, aligned, awakened, and the next you'll question everything. You'll ask, was any of this real? Am I just delusional? That's how the ego traps you, by making you doubt your own evolution. But understand this, that tension between who you were and who you're becoming is proof that transformation is happening. You're not broken, you're being rewired. During this stage, your desires, habits, and attachments will start fighting for survival. The old patterns, needing validation, craving attention, chasing comfort, they'll all try to pull you back. Because for the ego, comfort is life support, and you'll feel it physically. The fatigue, the restlessness, the overthinking. You'll feel torn between two worlds, one foot in the material, the other in the metaphysical. The more aware you become, the less pleasure you find in your old distractions. but you're not yet fully grounded in the new. That's why this stage feels chaotic. You're living in the gap between dying and rebirth. The spiritual texts call this the dark night of the soul. It's not poetic, it's raw. You'll question your worth. You'll crave meaning. You'll even miss your ignorance, because ignorance felt easier. You might even try to go back, chase relationships, pleasure, comfort. But nothing satisfies anymore. Why? Because you've outgrown your old vibration. The universe removes fulfillment from old paths, so you stop returning to them. It's not punishment. It's protection. You'll start noticing how your thoughts wage war with your intuition. One part of you wants to surrender, trust, flow. The other wants to control, define, and analyze. It's a mental tug-of-war between higher consciousness and survival instinct. This battle burns away everything fake, especially false spirituality. You'll realize awakening isn't about pretending to be peaceful all the time. It's about learning to stand in the fire without flinching. You'll experience deep emotional purging, random waves of sadness, anger, or nostalgia. They're not setbacks, they're releases. The old energies, the buried traumas, the memories you never processed, they surface to be burned off. You might lose sleep. You might lose appetite. You might even lose interest in the world entirely, but beneath that chaos, something divine is quietly taking shape, stillness. Because once you stop resisting, the war slows. You start observing instead of reacting. You begin to see your mind as a storm, not your identity, but a temporary weather pattern passing through. And that realization changes everything. You realize you don't have to win this war. You just have to stop fighting it. The ego can't survive your awareness. It feeds on resistance. The moment you observe it calmly, that's fear. That's control. That's pride. It dissolves. This is where power is born, in neutrality. The ability to witness chaos without becoming it. You'll start to understand the paradox that enlightenment isn't the absence of darkness, but mastery over it. The storm never ends. You just stop being the storm. Few people make it through this stage because it requires surrender. Most run back to distraction, to comfort, to company. But those who endure, they emerge unshakable. Because once you've faced your own darkness and lived, nothing outside can ever truly scare you again. This is stage 3, the inner war, where the ego dies screaming, and your higher self learns to whisper through the noise. 4. The death of the old self. This is where awakening turns quiet, but not peaceful. It's not fire anymore. It's ashes. After the chaos of the inner war, you begin to realize that the version of you who started this journey no longer exists. The person who cared about validation, who feared rejection, who needed control, he's fading. You don't kill him. He simply stops mattering. The death of the old self isn't a single moment. It's a slow, silent unraveling. You wake up one morning and realize the things that used to excite you now feel irrelevant. The people who once defined your worth no longer hold power. You stop chasing closure. You stop needing to be understood. And for the first time, you don't feel the urge to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. It's disorienting. Because ego death doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like emptiness, like standing in a room stripped bare after a storm. No identity, no certainty, just space. But that emptiness, that's the beginning of peace. For years, you thought you were your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your name. Now all of it feels like a costume you've finally outgrown. You see how much of your life was performance, how every goal, every relationship, every desire was rooted in fear of being less. Now that fear is gone, but so is the identity it built. You may go through a strange mourning period, because the old self wasn't all lies, he was just survival. You'll grieve him like an old friend who did his best with what he knew. But now, you know more. That's why spiritual awakening isn't glamorous, it's humbling. The death of the ego strips away everything you thought made you special. You realize you're not the hero, the victim, or the villain. You're the awareness behind all three. Control becomes meaningless. You no longer need to force outcomes, manipulate timing, or cling to people. You begin to trust something higher. Call it God, Source, the universe, whatever name fits your soul. You realize that life has always been happening for you, not to you. You start to understand that surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The river doesn't fear the current, because it is the current. And yet, this stage is not blissful right away. You will feel numb, detached, even emotionless, because your nervous system is recalibrating from constant reaction to quiet observation. You're adjusting from chaos to calm, and that calm feels foreign. This is the void most people mistake for depression, but it's actually purification. Life has paused your motion so you can see yourself clearly, not as a character but as consciousness itself. In this silence, subtle things begin to shift. You'll feel energy in ways you never noticed before. How rooms feel, how people drain or uplift you, how your body responds to truth versus illusion. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer talk to be heard. You speak when the soul commands it. You no longer seek belonging because you found home within. And here's the paradox. Once the old self dies, life doesn't get easier. You just stop needing it to be. You stop expecting people to understand you. You stop expecting outcomes to complete you. You stop expecting happiness to be constant. You start to be instead of becoming. The universe begins to align effortlessly because there's no longer resistance inside you. You've stopped fighting the current, and so it starts carrying you exactly where you're meant to go. This is the stage where the spiritual becomes practical. You no longer talk about energy, peace, and manifestation. You embody them. You don't seek signs. You are one. And the greatest irony, the more invisible you become to the world, the more power you hold within it. Because a man who has nothing to prove cannot be manipulated. A man who doesn't chase cannot be controlled. And a man who has died to his old self cannot be broken, only reborn. This is stage 4, the death of the old self, where silence becomes strength and surrender becomes your new form of power. 5. The birth of awareness. This is where the storm finally clears, and for the first time, you see reality as it truly is. After all the burning, breaking, and shedding, you rise lighter, quieter, sharper. The noise that once ruled your mind now feels distant, like a storm that passed long ago. You no longer react to life, you respond to it. And that difference changes everything. The birth of awareness feels like waking up inside a dream you used to take seriously. The same world exists, the same people, the same routines, but your perception has completely shifted. You see through the illusion without needing to destroy it. You understand that most people are sleepwalking, playing roles they never chose. You no longer judge them. You simply observe. This is where wisdom replaces emotion. You stop trying to control outcomes because you finally grasp the truth. Everything unfolds exactly as it must. The chaos that once scared you now amuses you. You see how every betrayal, delay, and detour was designed to refine your soul. You walk through life like a man who knows the game, not bitter, not cynical, just awake. Your aura changes here. It's not loud, but people feel it. You carry presence, that still, unshakable calm that comes only from someone who's been through fire and returned with light. The same energy that once chased approval now radiates self-mastery. You begin to move differently. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You no longer seek to be understood. You seek to understand. You realize that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the refusal to let conflict enter you. And love changes too. It's no longer about attachment, possession, or validation. You love freely, not because someone completes you, but because you become complete. You no longer give to get. You give because you are. This stage is not about transcendence. It's about integration. You return to the same world, but now you operate from awareness instead of ego. You can still play the game, but now you play it consciously. You know when to speak, when to stay silent, when to act, and when to withdraw. You no longer chase highs or fear lows. Both are part of the same rhythm. You've seen behind the curtain, and once you do, nothing can shock you anymore. You learn to flow like water, gentle yet unstoppable. Obstacles become redirection, not resistance. You see that life isn't personal, it's patterned. And once you align with that rhythm, effort becomes art. In this awareness, you stop taking things and people so seriously. You stop fighting for validation, arguing for truth, or proving your worth. You realize that enlightenment isn't floating above the world. It's walking through it untouched. Your solitude becomes sacred again, but this time it's not a wound, it's your throne. You walk alone, not because you're isolated, but because you no longer need company to feel whole. Those who join you now are not fillers. They're mirrors of your new vibration. And though life still throws challenges, they no longer destroy you. You face them with calm precision. You've mastered the art of inner stillness, that unbothered strength that no circumstance can shake. Because you've realized the secret. You were never meant to control life. You were meant to align with it. This is the state the ancient Stoics, mystics, and sages all spoke of, the meeting point between detachment and compassion, the place where peace no longer depends on conditions, where you live in the world but are not owned by it. You no longer run from the dark or cling to the light. You embody both. You've integrated the warrior and the monk, the fire and the calm. You understand now that duality isn't conflict, it's balance. This is what true freedom feels like. Not pleasure, not perfection, but neutrality. The ability to see everything and still choose peace. And that's the birth of awareness, the awakening after awakening. Not the moment you transcend the world, but the moment you return to it. Fully conscious, fully grounded, and finally fully yourself. This is stage 5, the birth of awareness, the completion of your awakening, and the beginning of your mastery. You've walked through illusion, isolation, destruction, and rebirth. You've seen every version of yourself die in the fire, only to realize the flames were never your enemy. They were your initiation. Spiritual awakening isn't light and incense. It's blood, silence, and surrender. It's watching everything false collapse, every identity, attachment, and mask, until the only thing left standing is you, raw and real. The truth is simple. You don't become awakened. You remember who you've always been. Every breakdown, betrayal, and dark night was just the universe peeling away what wasn't truly yours. Now you see differently. You move differently. You no longer chase meaning. You embody it. You no longer beg for peace. You radiate it. You no longer seek love. You are love in motion. This world will still test you. People will still misunderstand you. But that won't shake you anymore, because you've learned that awareness is not escape. It's control. The awakened one walks in power, not pride. In stillness, not stagnation. You've earned the right to be calm in chaos, to be light in the dark. And that's what true awakening is. Not detachment from the world, but dominance over it. Now the real journey begins, to live this awareness every day, in every choice, in every silence. If this spoke to your soul, leave a comment, share your truth, and subscribe. Because the world needs more men and women who remember who they are and walk as living proof that awakening is the greatest rebellion of all.